There can be only one franchise killer.
Only one?
The podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Or right.
All right.
Sorry, I went too quick into it that time.
All right.
No, can you do the villain on this one, Noah?
Well, I don't even know how to do his voice.
Here's the thing with Highlander villains. All of them have to do the same thing. All of them are like,
The real villain is the screenwriter.
Yeah, it's funny how every single villain after the Kurgan is a discount Kurgan.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all like, yeah, you know the voice that Kurgan was doing? Like, do that. Yeah. I'm Reese. Across from me we have
David.
To his left.
Irina.
To my right.
Noah.
Also known as Noah?
Yeah. I forgot his name. I forgot it was Katana for a moment.
Katana, I was
what a
thinking Mortal
stupid
Kombat.
name, though.
I was thinking Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I was too.
There's so many weird connections between this last series and this one, like Christopher Lambert, Katana, all these weird names, the KOs, and it's just a lot of crossover here. And a lot of mix of cultures. Like there's very kind of medieval Scottish old culture stuff, and then mixed with Asian.
The really weird thing, sorry to interrupt, the really weird thing about it too is that this one is Katana, and this is not the Japanese one. The next one is.
I know.
The next movie we're going to watch is. So.
And becoming McLeod's lover because he witnessed him fight, we have...
AJ.
Bomb, bomb, chicka, wow,
Quickening.
Oh, man.
And the movie, of course, that we're talking about, of course, classic. Highlander II, The Quickening. And I do want to say that I think some of us may have watched different versions. I watched the Renegade version.
I did as well.
Yeah, so both were on YouTube, fully, decent quality. There's the Renegade version and the normal titled The Quickening version. The Quickening is the cut that the director hates. The Renegade one is the one that he kind of slapped together that's still bad, but I guess slightly better. But I didn't... So I watched the Renegade. Noah, you watched...
Renegade as well.
Irina.
I watched Quickening.
And David.
I'm pretty sure I watched Renegade.
Yeah. And AJ, how about you?
Quickening, whichever one was free on Vudu with ads, and I looked forward to the ad break so much.
Yeah, you might have been the Quickening. It was an hour and 24 minutes versus an hour and 40, I think, for the Renegade.
Hour 46, yeah.
I'm so glad that you watched this.
Yeah, I'm actually, and this will be interesting because we can kind of compare notes as we go into this. And before listeners, before we get too far into these, we are covering every Highlander movie. However, these are going to be shorter episodes, a little more bite-sized because there's just less meat on the bone with these. And some of us may drop like flies as the episodes go. But I can guarantee you I will guide this ship to the end. I've seen all of them. But we're just going to kind of play it by ear here. But these will be shorter episodes, so just want to prepare y'all for that.
I guess if you're the captain, I'm the first mate on this one. Also going down with the ship.
I was guiding the ship, but you're going. You're thinking it's an inevitable Titanic disaster.
I'm shoveling water out of the bottom.
You're
of
a private, is what
through
you
all
are.
these holes.
All right, the movie was directed.
Off to a good start.
Great. The movie was directed by Russell Mulcahy, and he directed the last one. And I think in the last episode, I didn't go into some of the other films he's covered, which actually, sorry, but let me look this up real quick. I just want to get that done. I know he directed Resident Evil Extinction, another classic. Yeah, he also directed a Razorback in 1984. That's kind of a cult horror movie. Obviously, first Highlander and most recently Resident Evil Extinction. Those are his most notable pictures. And Razorback, I actually think, kind of has a cult following as well. I think that's a horror movie about a pig that goes on like a razorback hog.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the college, the football team, the Razorbacks.
Sure, yes. You're actually right.
Yeah.
This did take place in Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah, the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, but the movie was Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, movie stars, again, Christopher Lambert, Virginia Madsen, Michael Ironside, returning also is Sean Connery, and then we also have John C. McGinley and Alan Rich. David, when you text me, like, John
John C.
or-
McGinley.
John C. McGinley's in this. When I looked at that name, I was like, who's that? Like,
I know him,
but
No one knows him by name.
But here's the thing: I knew who you were talking about because I recognized the guy when he came up, and I'm like, "Oh, I bet it's that
That's-
guy."
yep.
And he's from. And I was like, "He's probably from some TV show or
Yep,
something."
Scrubs.
And
Talk from Scrubs.
Well,
Dr.
you
Cox.
also
He's the
saw
real
him.
immortal.
You also saw him in Wild Hogs.
Was
he was
he-
the cop.
Marco.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Marco.
yeah.
That's right. Screenplay by Peter Bellwood and a story by Brian Clemens and William N. Panzer.
What a name.
Yep.
I bet they're glad they're being listed for this.
And for those that are new to this podcast, I'm sorry that this is your first episode. But on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode, and then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, let's start with you this time, AJ. Had you seen Highlander 2, The Quickening?
If I had, it'd been burned from my memory. So
You actually had seen this before.
if I had, I don't know.
Oh. I was like,
don't
you
think
hadn't
so.
seen the first one, but the second one, weirdly, okay. David, how about you?
Not even close to seeing this movie. Didn't have any intention on watching it. Unfortunately, we had to for this.
Irina?
I'm pretty sure I saw this before. Every now and then there was something that looked familiar, but I think I had erased everything else from my memory.
I have a theory on that, and I'll stick a pin in it when we get back
All
around to
right.
me.
All right.
Noah, how about you?
I don't think I've seen it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No more anecdotes?
It's something.
So, Irina, yes, I am with you. There are aspects of at least this movie and the fourth one, Endgame, where I'm like, I've seen that scene.
The
Yeah.
fourth one, yes.
Yeah, I remember, and I guarantee you it was Mom who liked Highlander renting the movies at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, whichever one it was at the time, and putting it on at some point, and maybe we kind of wandered in and out and saw parts of it.
Do
Yeah.
you guys notice how in every single movie there had to be a sex scene and
Yep.
they always had to chomp on the nipple?
It was weird.
Every
Like,
time.
they just go for it like it's a Hershey's
Every
Kiss.
time.
It's just a reference to each movie, you know?
Well-
It's an
I
homage.
don't understand.
There can
The
be
other
only
reason
one.
this may seem familiar
tit for
is
tat.
It can be
like
only one.
the recycled sets from like the Blade Runner pyramid and who knows what.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like when I saw that pyramid and the pipes with the flames coming out of them, I'm like,
Yep.
guys, this is just, for one, it's 10 years later and it looks worse than Blade Runner. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
All right. David, you want to give us that quick call to action? Can you do it in a villain voice? We heard Sean Connery last time.
No, I didn't do Sean Connery last time. I did McLeod last time, remember? And it
did.
turned out to be British.
No, we got a flavor of that though. I need to see the
Kurgan got a voice.
No, you're doing Katana here.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, they all
Virginia
kinda
Madsen.
sound like this. Is that what he sounds like? I'm just mad. Don't worry about it,
Pennywise.
boss.
Oh yes, do those guys. Do the little
The porcupine
flying
headsmen.
dudes.
Welcome to Franchise Killer. And if you want to go and help our podcast, you gotta go and give us a 5-star review. What is this lisp? I don't know. And you gotta help us out on 5-star Apple. I'm just the boy.
They're not boys.
Anyway, franchise killer. Let's not beleaguer this any longer.
Belabor.
Beleaguer?
Belabor.
Beleaguer's a word.
Is it?
Yeah.
Let's just pass on.
Yeah. Help us out. 5-star on Apple. You follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and anything else you feel like doing.
Cool. Thanks, David.
There's the David
Amazing
Lynch
as
connection.
always. All right, Noah. You want to take it away with that story, and you're gonna give us
Yeah.
the very condensed synopsis.
Yeah, this is just a little quick fix to get the gist of the story.
quote
going
unquote
in.
story.
Yeah. We're going to do this in one go, so we're not going to have a halfway point synopsis unless we decide this was awful.
All right, let's play that trailer and go.
Greetings, Highlander. You call? Let's have some fun.
In all their centuries on Earth, nothing could have prepared them for the Quickening. Christopher Lambert, Sean Connery, Highlander II, The Quickening.
In a mass retconning of events from the previous movie, The Highlander, Sean Connery is alive, Connor MacLeod is old, other immortals still exist somehow, and his previous flame is conveniently out of the way. Connor must save the world once more by undoing what he did to save it in the past. After some weird time-traveling mumbo-jumbo, assassins are sent to kill Connor. Unfortunately for our discount Kurgan number 1, also known as Katana, Connor kills them and
It's
regains
General Katana. to you?
General Katana. Connor kills them and regains his youth, after which he makes sweet love to the first woman he sees. Discount Kurgan, deciding he must do it himself, comes to the future and teams up with modern capitalism to destroy the Highlander. Connor, now reunited with Sean Connery, take on the world and save it once again, killing Katana in the process.
Yeah, I tried writing a script for this just so I could like get my head wrapped around it, and I couldn't. You did a wonderful
Thank
job
you.
of summing
That was a
that
good
up.
synopsis. You need to do this more often, Noah.
Well, here's the interesting part. Notice how quickly the introduction immediately goes into the conclusion.
It is called
Yeah,
The Quickening.
And realize that I actually did cover the major plot points.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
You did.
So
You know, I
So
heard
basically-
recently called
Take Terminator and Blade Runner and
Star
what
Wars.
else? Something else. Put it in a blender.
yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the villain to me is like a combo of Wormtongue and Jack
Yes.
Nicholson.
I said Jack Nicholson to
Yeah.
Reese when
Yeah.
I was watching it the other night.
Michael Ironside, he's actually a good actor, and I think what he's doing here, it's a terrible role,
a
but at
coping
least
mechanism.
when he's on screen, it's injecting some sort of energy into it,
Yeah.
like that train sequence. I thought was like manic in a similar way that the Kurgan scene in his
Yeah.
car was, where it was just insanity.
Good acting
I
cannot
do
save a
think
bad
that-
script.
I do think the train scene was interesting,
Yeah.
at the very
But
least.
but let's talk about what AJ touched on here. Whereas this movie, it's very Terminator and Blade Runner knockoff. Why did the director feel like this was the logical step to go? This feels like he wanted to direct a completely different movie, but
Yeah.
the IP of Highlander was so high up that he was just like, I'm gonna make my sci-fi movie in the Highlander property.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it's
That makes sense.
it's just
feel
so
like-
baffling. It's like, oh, the ozone layer's dead, and now there's this shield around the city, and oh, McLeod helped create that shield because he's just a genius.
He
I guess.
decided to abandon his antique shop and just pursue science.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes
I don't know.
sense.
I feel like the secret to success in his mind was story. Who needs story? Screw that. It'll just hire some big actors and recycled sets, and that's what we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was kind of like a, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if we added this and this and this and this, and then did not even try to really piece them together.
yeah, and I did read that it was a troubled production, and the director was super unhappy with his cut of the film.
Yeah.
But even in The Quickening, I have to imagine that, dude, this was a lot of like your film still, and a lot of what I'm seeing here is just way off the mark, in my opinion.
It reminds me of like,
Right.
I don't know, like Reese. I mean, we wanted to make home movies like this would be cool. This would be cool. Let's do this. Like, and then just got a high production value out of it. And I don't know.
Yeah, it seems very much like I have all these toys to play with now. I'm just gonna throw them all in here because I can, and not really think about the craft of it or put any care into anything. Also, the editing, especially at the beginning of this movie, is absolutely atrocious. Like, and this is in the Renegade cut that I saw.
Right.
Like the flashing back, he's in the opera house, flashing back to the past with all this. And in y'all's version, they're like aliens. Or in the Quickening, they're aliens. In the Renegade version, they try to scrub that out and make them seem just like time travelers, I guess,
Something.
through magic or sorcery. Like,
Yeah.
it's so confusing. And I get that they're trying to do the same thing in the first movie where he's at the boxing match or the wrestling match.
Right.
And he then kind of cuts to the past after he lops that guy's
So-
head off.
That's why
But
they have
this
a
one-
Foreigner
that-
soundtrack. Symbolism.
Yeah, they have like one Queen song in this, right?
Yeah. I think it's just kind of repurposed though to be like, hey, remember the first one? I think that's one of my main concerns with this too, is while it does seem, we're going in a completely different direction, when you look at the whole plot as an entirety, it's pretty much the first movie again. You know, you have the Kurgan, which he's set to, I don't know, I guess kill them or whatever. Then you bring Ramirez back again. He sacrifices himself again.
Yep.
And
Well,
he
I
finds
wasn't
this
even
new woman who's what?
Like, did he sacrifice himself?
He kind of, pretty much.
He just like disappears in
did.
light.
Yeah.
He sacrificed.
Too amazing.
My
Grace.
point is, there are so many motifs, so many moments and scenes that are pretty much just recycled from the first. Even the final face-off, you're in this situation where there's like a reflection on the water. Everything's like wet or whatever, and it's kind of done away with really quickly. I don't like it.
So-
I think it's
It's an
really,
interesting point. You know, I guess some fair criticism here. Where do you draw the line between reminiscent and kind of playing with some parallels to your predecessor, or straight like ripoff?
Are we talking like Star Wars 7?
No, like the first movie. So you have that final showdown between him and the Kurgan, and you have this kind of like backlit scene with the blue and black between the columns and stuff, and that was kind of reenacted with once Ramirez finally meets Highlander again, and they have that sword fight. That scenery was reminiscent of the first movie,
right.
of those shots. So I don't know. It's like, where do you draw the line between just recycling content versus nodding to your, the previous?
So
movie?
I'm okay with coming back to things that are like in the flesh and blood of a series, that it just makes sense to have them. Like iconic moments in Star Wars, you see, we referenced Star Wars earlier, you see them repeated in Force Awakens. And who said Star Wars 7?
I did.
David.
I think that's fine, but it saps that movie of some of its originality, so I don't like you to press too hard on it. I kind of like them to be little Easter eggy moments,
Yeah.
unless they
Yeah.
up the ante and make it even, like they embolden that moment, make it even better than it was in the
Yeah.
first. That's when I like it. But I don't like when you just like draft off that same energy and don't inject anything new or exciting in it.
Well, that's the problem with the Highlander franchise in general. It's because whenever you're trying to redo the first one, you're like, it's not over yet.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So-
that everybody just wants to be the last one.
That's basically what I'm talking about, is they're trying to give you this idea that, this has progressed into the future, and so there's a new sci-fi problem that we're dealing with. When in actuality, we're not. It's just you went into the future and then created the same problem you had in the past.
Yeah.
But this whole song and dance about saving the ozone or, planet Earth or whatever, and then creating this, instead of helping the people, I hurt the people. That's just sidelined.
Yeah.
And it goes straight to this face-off with Katana.
Yeah, can any of y'all kind of explain what happens in what is the motivational for the motivation for the villain in this, and like what is happening exactly? Like, why did he just now decide to send these assassins into the future or whatever? Like, I know like McLeod's old and he's about to die. Like, why is he trying to kill him now?
Because he wanted it done.
Because he was afraid McLeod was going to make up his mind. Because I think that's what they were waiting on, was him to decide whether or not he was going to be immortal or be mortal and come back. And he didn't want him to come back. But it does seem like he was just going to die.
Yeah, it was so the
So that was a
editing is
contradiction
upsetting.
of the ending of the first movie where he decided to be human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think.
thought he made the decision. But then this one like retcons
retcons
it back,
a
and it's
lot.
like, actually, I didn't make a decision.
And I was never really clear of like how many bad guys are there, like the aliens / whatever that exile him into the future in the first place. Those seemed like some kind of dirtbags.
Right.
You have Dr.
Yeah.
Cox, whatever his name is, and this and evil corporation guy.
It's
And then
so
you have
confusing.
Ironside.
Also,
I don't know.
David, I think you had a few choice words about his old man voice.
Oh, it's great.
Well, I just don't understand it. His choice. This is his choice for old man voice.
Yes, this is my old man voice.
I should have had you do the call to action.
I
in
know.
that
I
voice.
was thinking that too.
I'm old
Been
man.
smoking some cowboy
My
killers since.
favorite, one of my favorite parts is when he's in the bar and on the television they're talking about, oh, this woman, you know, she's bad or something, and then he's like, pretty lady. That's all he says.
I thought it was just a result of the ozone disappearing. That's what everybody's voices sound
Oh
like.
yeah, it's just sucking the air out of everything. I also want to talk about the scene. So this lady, and we're laughing at the little bug people on screen, the henchmen with the cackly voices and the cackles and
The porcupine heads.
Yeah, the porcupine heads.
men.
I did like that glider chase scene. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was fun until it held on it for too long. Like there were so many shots that just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. What's this girl's name again? I forget. The
Louise.
Louise. Yeah, so she's kind of tracking McLeod. Mm-hmm. And that becomes a thing in like every one of these movies with the new girls. It's just trying to find them.
You know where we saw this woman before?
She looks familiar.
In Dune.
Dune.
She was the princess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a very minor role, but
Wow.
that's where
David,
we saw her
David Lynch
recently.
got the hookup here. He's like, you want a crazy, stupid movie? Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, here you go.
Perfect role.
But I don't know if y'all agree with me. This is maybe the worst scene after the fight, after he decapitates the two dudes. I'm not talking about that. That was fine. I mean, it was goofy, but it was fine. I could tolerate it. But he turns young, and
Yeah.
the immediate thing right after that is let's make out and literally bang on the wall here because I'm young now.
Because he was
And-
only, 200 years old, 30 seconds ago. That's such a turn on there.
Yeah.
I did want to read. I was reading the Wikipedia synopsis for this, and it's what inspired my intro for you, AJ. But it's so here it goes. So when Cordo winds up losing his head following a fight, McLeod absorbs his power, regaining the youth and vitality he had before he won the prize. He kills Reno and then instinctively summons Ramirez back to life. Louise witnesses this battle and becomes McLeod's lover. That's the line.
Wow.
She does become his lover. I like to think that as he gained his youthfulness back, he's like, whoa, I have a libido.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Whoa, I haven't felt that in a while.
Whoa.
It's just like a
Gotta
magnet
decapitate
just
somebody.
attracted to the
Yeah. No.
So
he was
turned
like,
on from killing people.
elevator up. Yeah. How'd you feel about that scene, Arena?
I did not like it. I thought that was the stupidest idea ever.
The thing that I think is really even worse about it too is that before that point she was not on his side. She was really upset with him. In fact,
Yeah.
Until
she
she
did
saw him
not
kill
like
some
him.
guys and
She's like,
turn
oh,
into a handsome man.
He's hot
He just
and
came out of
immortal.
flames,
Was she
man.
some kind of like rebel leader or something like that? I don't even know where she came from.
No, I don't either. Yeah, I'm not really sure what her role is exactly. Do you guys remember?
I thought she was
She's
trying.
like a reporter or something.
Well,
Again?
wait. I thought she
Or-
was trying to like help get the ozone taken, like the
She's
shield.
trying to. Yeah,
taken
because
down.
she's revealed that somehow she knows that the ozone's back to normal.
It
or
just
whatever.
fixed
Like
itself.
it's good now, so we can
It's
turn
good
the thing
now.
off. But for whatever reason, the bad guys don't want to turn off.
Well,
the
because
shield thing.
money.
Because money.
Because money.
As Noah said, big capitalism.
If you
Yeah.
had told me this plot and said this is the sequel to Highlander, I would have been like, yeah, that's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk a little bit of positive.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this movie is completely without
Merit.
certain merits. Okay, I'm a big sucker for one as we're looking at it. I really like the 80s, 90s lightning effect that they implement in here. And I think there's a lot of cool like pyrotechnics, and the action is at least kinetic enough to where I'm mildly engaged.
It is entertaining.
And Sean Connery's still got the charisma, the swagger.
He does.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's where I was leading next. I think having Sean Connery back here automatically injects this movie, or it gives it at least like maybe a 0.5 higher than I would normally give another movie without him in it. My problem with Sean Connery in this is it takes him the whole movie to get where McLeod is, and then he dies.
He's in another movie the whole
Yeah.
time. He's like in a side comedy.
Yeah, he's in a little
I would have
sitcom.
preferred to have watched that movie.
I enjoyed the whole Kingsman suit up at the tailor
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I also love, as a person who's deathly afraid of flying, I love him being on the plane, and
Yes!
the PSA video is just like
Oh,
doom
my
and gloom, like you're
safety
gonna
video.
die, and then
Yes.
just shows the plane crashing.
Oh, I
PSA,
love that
you know about
part. That
brunettes.
actually made me laugh.
Yeah. So there's moments here, and as I was watching this, I was kind of waffling, like, oh, that was cool, like when that explosion happens and it envelops McLeod, and then he kind of walks out of the flame. But then every great moment is just juxtaposed with something terrible.
Yeah.
That's when you drink more.
Yeah, that's when you drink. That was your strategy, huh?
Take a sip every time you need it.
Man, you'd be drunk 20 minutes into this thing.
Andrew did give me AJ did give me a sliding number for his final review based on his level of intoxication.
Yeah,
It gets higher as it goes
So
along.
I was thinking the same thing. Critically, it's a certain level, but then when you under a different light,
Yeah.
it can also be enjoyed.
Yeah. All right. So where are we at? We Ironside is we got to the train part where he's kind of having a blast in this world.
And his
Killing
character
him.
is Katana, correct?
Yes, General Katana. I love that he just makes this train by sheer evil will and sorcery, I guess, just fly off the tracks, and all the people are
700
just
miles
like
per hour.
crushed and dangling out of the windows, and then it just blasts through the wall. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's the
why not?
that's the energy I need out of a Highlander villain. But then after that, I think that's the peak of how good he gets in this
Yeah.
movie. Like after
Why does-
that, he just kind of it feels
Why
a little
does General
sidelined with
Katana
him.
fight with a claymore, but McLeod fights with a katana?
Yeah.
Because his name's Katana, but he doesn't fight with one.
It is
Yeah, where's his
funny.
katana?
Also, the
His
matchup with
katana
that
with an
sword
eye.
duel.
And also
Pretty-
just why Katana? Why is this alien guy named after a Japanese sword?
Well, also, why is Ramirez still named Ramirez when clearly they all
good
agree
question.
that none of them are actually from Earth?
And he says also that this is a friend from Scotland,
Yeah.
and he's Scottish, also.
But he still introduces himself as Ramirez
Yeah.
from Spain.
It is what it is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love that this villain sent two goofballs to do his dirty work.
This is
and
Super
then
Mario Brothers.
decided that he doesn't have anyone else equipped to send them, so
Nope, just these two idiots.
I'll just send myself,
You know,
I guess.
Do you guys remember Super Mario Bros. With
yeah.
with the two Goomba people they send
Yeah.
after him, and they're just like, why?
No, this movie has very Mario Brothers energy to it. At least the world,
Yeah.
like how weirdly tactile but fake everything seems.
Yep.
And the action has a similar energy to it, even though this is more R-rated. Although I don't think this movie was as violent as some of the other ones. I mean, there's moments where there's beheadings, but it's
well, and the
weirdly
whole
kind of
car, machine gun, that gratuitous
but it's
bulls and body stuff. But
It's
miraculously,
kind of bloodless,
she's
though.
perfectly fine in the trunk.
yeah.
It's actually reminding me a little of Howard the Duck as well.
Oh, a little, yeah.
There's something about the grunge, but combined with kind of this campy comedy aspect to it as well.
Wait,
They do too much toot.
I don't remember any duck boobs in this movie.
No.
I just have to
Not
look closer,
watching
I guess.
close enough.
Yeah.
It's chicken breast. Get it right.
Okay, so we have Sean Connery on all of his shenanigans getting to the city, and meanwhile, also have Connor McLeod dispatching these dudes, and also there's this throwaway scene where Brenda is horribly misshapen by the
Sun.
some disease from the sun,
Yeah.
and
Who's Brenda?
his past love, who now she looks just There was a very throwaway brief scene. Maybe it wasn't in your version.
I don't think it was in the Quickening.
Yeah, but she has just her face is deformed and she's in like a hospital bed and he like kisses her and it's like, okay, I guess I'm single now. But
And he was like, that was like 30 years ago.
I think
that's the one that wanted to examine his sword.
Yeah.
And then they have that funny part where he's talking to current love and she's like, it must be awful. And he's like, you get used to it. And she says, do you? And he's like, no, you don't.
You called me out.
She didn't have to do a lot of digging to get that answer out of him.
Just say,
just get a new broad
you
every
never
century,
get
you're
used
good.
to it instead. Why? But there's just a lot of I think one of the issues with this movie is that ultimately the whole movie is about 20 minutes, but there's so much fluff in between.
It really is, because I could kind of skip to where the end is at this point.
Exactly.
They try to infiltrate the pyramid structure from Blade Runner, and there's another character too who's kind of alluded, or you see him a couple times. I can't even describe. This is so bad because such a forgettable. It's the character from.
Is it McGinley's
Yeah,
character?
McGinley. Like, what does he even
He's
do?
a capitalist dude, whatever.
He's the head of the corporation.
Dr.
I think
Connor.
I think the idea is that there were two founders for, that ozone shield or whatever. And then this guy kind of like is taken over that company and edged them out in a way, but they still have their status, I guess. And he's just making a lot of money.
I just want to take his role, like copy and paste it from Office Space into this movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Did you get the memo?
That's right. He was that
No,
guy
not
in Office
him.
Space. Dang.
He's not the boss. He's the auditor. One of the auditors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who loved? Oh, one of the guys who falls in love, who like likes the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But yeah, it does just kind of right after this fight. There's a whole lot of fluff, a whole lot of talking, a whole lot of Sean Connery making his way over there, doing like entertaining
Seriously.
little scenes, but ultimately they mean nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
Like-
It's so fillery.
and
To
then
the point where I thought the climax and the end of the movie was when Sean Connery, Ramirez finally finds McLeod and they have this sword fight. I'm like, is this the end?
yeah,
I don't know.
it'd be so disappointing.
Honestly, if I could reframe this movie as Ramirez is the main character and you're with him and he doesn't know why he's been summoned into this world, and then he runs into McLeod and we meet McLeod much later, that might be kind of cool.
No,
you know?
I realized I was really bored with McLeod, but every time Ramirez would show up, I was engaged again. And I think just because it felt actually clever and full of charm, where the whole time this Luis character is falling for McLeod, I'm like, why though? Like,
Yeah, I know.
what about this dude is so appealing? Like, I'm bored.
Yep.
Well, he did just kill 2 flying monkeys from Wizard of Oz, so I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last part of this movie is kind of a blur for me as to what happens. I did watch it. My eyeballs were as glued to the screen as they could be, but essentially, Ramirez is killed by a fan.
He's
Right?
like lifting
Sure is.
it, and then, as far as I know, there was a big light, and he disappeared.
To the tune of Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And
So
then they
either
just
he
open
died
up
or
this back door that they could have
transported.
just like opened up earlier, I guess, and walked through. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, all right. Like, I feel like he could, at the rate that fan was going down without them stopping it, he could have held it and ran with them. Like, that was like the most unnecessary. It was obviously like, okay, we know Connery can't be in the next movie, so we got to kill him again.
He just
Well-
didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
They're all like starting to duck and pretend like it's like squeezing down on them, and the fan like cuts to show it's still like 50 feet up, and they're like, oh no, it's almost gonna get us.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do this. Like, just watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Show that spike scene coming down, all those things, like really well executed tension, and you could easily see them dying in that situation. If you have this just slow moving fan that he can stop with magic, like, you're telling me, oh, Ramirez just couldn't make it out of this thing?
What year was this movie?
What?
What year was this movie?
91, and it looks like 81.
Yeah.
It looks like
so
81 to me.
A New Hope was what, late 70s, 77, I think.
Yeah, 77.
So this is basically like Obi-Wan turning into Vader's sword and like turning into a Force ghost. Like that's what this was for me. Is Ramirez like, okay, I'm gonna give you my power by sacrificing myself and turning into this ball of light.
Yeah, but whereas I thought Star Wars earned it, this one is like there's no pathos in that scene. There's no it's just like I guess I just have to
on
die.
the bagpipes. How could you not be?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just cue the bagpipes.
That part. Oof.
Okay, so McLeod and what's her name? Already forgetting. Louise.
Why was she there again? Like, why
I
did she
don't
go
know.
with him?
Because Sean Connery says it'll take the two of you.
Okay, so
And because they're lovers.
think part of it was she was in that place before and she knew where to look, I guess. And so she was just kind of leading him into where he could destroy the machine or turn it off or I don't know.
Yeah, no, she did. No, remember they invaded the thing in a blaze of glory. They both die, and then she, I guess, is in the trunk and is like, they kidnapped me, and I don't even understand why this is their plan when they could have just.
Oh, you're talking about when they.
So they went in and she was like there for a reason.
For a reason.
Yeah.
Let's just skip ahead here.
Yeah.
Get to our final battle with Katana, which he's kind of just been like not a big part of this or at least in my mind, he's just not. I don't see him as much of a threat until they finally come to a head here. Like I think the problem, what was so good about the first Highlander, and I know we didn't all like it, it set up the Kurgan as someone to be feared because at every turn he was killing a main character, and he was basically the Joker. You never knew what he was gonna do.
Yep.
This guy Katana is just like, yeah, you have one madcap scene where he's kills some people on a train, but then this movie's like, oh yeah, that's enough. Like now we've established him as a villain. Let's get back to the other stuff.
He vandalizes a taxi.
He did grab Cox by the doctor and defenestrate him.
Hey.
Yeah, it's just not enough. But this final fight, it's okay. It's like what I've kind of come to expect, based off everything this movie's been so far. What'd y'all think of the final confrontation and beheading? We're gonna do a rank the beheadings after the end of this, by the way.
I found it to be a bit tiring.
Yep.
Sword fight with a katana and a broadsword. Why?
Yeah, and again, it's one of those fights where it's just really clunky. Like, all right, wind back, hit, wind back, hit, clang, clang, clang.
And then he's done for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still cool lightning effects though, and
Yeah.
pyrotechnics. Again, like I like the one thing I don't. But again, another thing aesthetically I don't like about this movie is how blue everything is, and how just
Yep.
like the lighting in that final fight. Just it's kind of ugly to look at. Whatever.
Speaking to the aesthetic, just a little bit of advice for anyone out there. If you want to know if you're working for the good side or the bad side, check to see if you have any lighting behind your vent fans. There were so many.
Yeah.
Just
They love doing that.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
with the
just-
little vent fans and blue light behind it to, cast this really dark and macabre, sinister glow
Or-
to all the devious capitalist work they do.
Yeah, but if you teleport on top of the Himalayas and look down on everything, then that changes everything.
Yep. It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Well, and then he goes into the beam me up, Scotty, which I don't know what that was about because apparently, even though Sean Connery said it'll take the power of both of you, she just kind of sits there and cowers while he walks into it and.
Yeah, what does she do? Like they lower the
didn't do
shield.
anything.
Does she do something with a computer or something? I can't remember.
Maybe.
I don't know.
She might have.
She just didn't. Yeah, she didn't add much. But they take care of the shield, and the ozone's fine. All is just perfectly well with the world. What did y'all think at the end of this movie?
It's great.
Oh, thank goodness it's over.
Yeah.
I was kind of hooked in the beginning because of the weirdness of it all, and just like by the halfway point and the fact that Sean Connery still hadn't found his way over to the Americas yet, I was just pulled out.
Yeah.
I do think that overall, a lot of the acting is fine. I just think the material and the choice as far as
It's
the
true.
direction of Highlander was severely lacking. So I think everything surrounding the actors just was not great. And some of the sets were cool, but again, like we said, just felt like they were pulled from other films.
Yeah.
And I did not feel satisfied with my ending.
Not my Highlander. Arena
Not
says.
my Highlander, yep.
Noah, you any final thoughts?
I'm just, disappointed.
Disappointed.
I mean,
Love that.
you watch like the first 10 minutes, even less than that actually, and you know the direction it's going, but it's still, kind of heartbreaking.
There were some shots I liked at the beginning, like at the opera. It just looked cool. And I was
But
like,
then you hear his voice and you're like, yep.
I know. I was kind of hoping that this movie would surprise me, and while it's better than the disastrous reviews would indicate, it's still like I don't blame them all for giving it a negative review either.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Any final thoughts, AJ?
I'm just glad for Lou Graham's outro made it all worth it.
Lou Graham's outro. There you go. All right. Closing out the story portion of this podcast, we're going to take a brief break. And just so you know, AJ, I think we're just going to do 3 recordings. So unless you need a break, we're just going to go into the review portion. Is that okay?
I'm good.
So we're going to take a brief break. And on the other end, we're going to get into our brief reviews, numbered scores, and brief reviews along with numbered scores, what critics thought, go into some box office, and close out with a little franchise talk. So we'll see you then. Welcome back. Let's talk Highlander 2, The Quickening, or Highlander 2, the Renegade version. So yeah, sorry if this annoys any listeners that some of us watched one and some of us the other, but y'all are lucky we're even covering these sequels to begin with, so we did it, so you don't have to. What did I get that from? I got that from a show.
You did get it from something.
Oh, you're talking about Rhett and Link. So I'm pretty sure
that's
they
it,
do
yeah.
it on Good Mythical Morning.
Yeah. Okay, cool. David, you want to pull those scores at random there?
Sure can. First up is Noah with a big old 2.
And I actually will bring it up a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to a 3. As bad as it is, I think 2 is a really, really low
Yeah.
score. And this does have Sean Connery in it in an enjoyable way, even if it fails. The main issue, though, with this is the story and the retconning and the fact that, like Irina said, it just rehashes kind of the first plot, but in a chip-chop way.
I'm going to take that. I'm going to use chip chop now.
Chip
It's
chop.
appropriate.
Yeah. Like they chipped and they chopped away from it. Get it?
No, I got it. I like it. I just
Anyways.
noticed it looks like he's wearing a WWE belt.
Yeah, the villain is a weaker Kurgan. Even though he is one of the more interesting parts of the movie, it's still just not really satisfying at all. And it's just disappointing that, you have such a cool, ideal fantasy
Premise.
premise, and you do this with it. And it's just like, what are you guys thinking? Why does this happen?
Why does this happen? That's the pull quote for the box art
Yeah.
on this.
Why
does this
does this happen? Why did you retcon so much of the first movie?
Yeah.
Anyways, 3 I think is fair.
All right.
Alrighty. And next up is AJ with a score range of 2 to 3.5, depending on ABV.
Nice.
And I think he landed somewhere around 2.5.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is just a big old why question mark.
Yep.
I don't know. And why are there two versions of this in the first? I don't know.
I know.
Like you can't polish a turd any further.
Why are there two versions and both of them are bad? Is my question. Like, I get why you would have a second version, but it's also still bad.
Yeah, and I don't know. This one dips its toes in the water of it's so bad. It's kind of fun to drink
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
And more so for me personally than the first one was. The first one kind of struck the middle of the road where it wasn't good or bad in a good way, but this one kind of verged on so bad it's good, or fun at least. And most of that is due to Sean Connery, and you know, the acting was good, and the Foreigner Lou Gramm soundtrack was kind of, I get the 80s vibe in this,
Right.
and it's not as kind of bizarro land as Kurgan, which just doesn't float my boat personally, but except for the Porcupine Bros. Anyway, I got the tone of this movie was a little bit more cohesive, I think, oddly enough, but just, gosh, I mean, I don't know how they credit anybody for screenplay, because basically it was like, story, we don't need no stinking story. We got Sean Connery. And
It's
the
weird.
pyramid from
Tonally,
Blade
it was
Runner.
more consistent, but the plot was made zero sense consistently.
Yeah, and even less so. Like, I didn't like McLeod. I didn't want to follow him in the first movie. I wanted the secondary characters here even more so. Like, I don't care about this guy at all. I don't know. Like, literally, story is a mess. It's non-existent. What there is of it is just, you know, spaghetti on the wall that's already been chewed up and vomited up. But you do have some decent soundtrack and acting cast, which really makes me question Sean Connery calling The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen his breaking point and the worst thing he's ever worked on. Why quit acting? But he's been through this movie, so
Yeah.
kind of
I think he
question
was
his
starting to lose
judgment
it at the
there.
point because he like turned down the Gandalf role because the script didn't make sense, and he was just like,
Yeah.
which thankfully I'm so glad.
I know,
don't know.
me too.
If this was just like a ripoff and like I was just waiting them to jump into some kind of horse-drawn carriage of the future and crank it to 88 miles an hour and go back to the future, whatever the time travel business was from the beginning, I don't know. It's all over the place. 2.5 is fair just because of, you know, some fun with the dumbness of it, I guess, and the charisma factor of Sean Connery.
All right.
Next up, Irina with a 3.
Nice.
This movie is not good.
Yeah.
I and to inform our audiences, Irina rarely goes that low.
No, I don't. And I think it is because this very much lacks any kind of inspiration to me. I think all of it feels pulled from several things I've seen before, including its own previous film. One of the things I noticed is that there's so much humor injected into this movie that doesn't land all the time. Sometimes it does, but it feels like it felt as if it was guaranteed a cult status, you know? Like they were expecting themselves to be liked for the camp, and even then, like, if the story doesn't make sense, if it is just a lesser version of things you've seen before, and the story isn't there, it's not really following the trajectory of the first, then how can you guarantee that people are going to just love this? Like, I don't know. I find this movie kind of offensive to me, and
That's rare for you.
Yeah, it's fun, sure. Dante, calm down. Sorry,
He didn't like it either.
He's had some CBD treats, but
Wait, what? David?
Dante.
David's growling at his
We gave him the CBD treatment.
We'll feed you in a second. Yeah, it's fun, but in some ways, but I'll never watch it again.
Yeah.
Unless alcohol's involved.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would do that with that. Like, this is just...
Yeah, I know.
We'll get to it. Go ahead, Dave.
Next up is Reese with a 2.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to go up to 2.5 just for the kind of Sean Connery factor. But I think I'm going to keep it at 2 because there's so many... Like, especially that random love sex scene. It's... Yeah, I get that you can kind of enjoy this on a so bad it's good level, but that was like almost a bridge too far for me. I was just like, what, really? Like, there's moments that this movie tries to be
it was
cool.
the 80s.
Yeah, there's moments where the movie actually tries to be cool, and I'm just like, with scenes like this sex scene and other scenes, like you shot yourself in the foot already. You're limping to the finish line after that, no matter what. And yeah, there's a couple of moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, this is kind of entertaining.
You're supposed to go out with a bang, not start with it.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And this is also one of the worst examples of a sequel. Like, this is one of the biggest fumblings of a ball that I've ever seen. And Noah, you've had 2 of them in your miniseries so far. You have Mortal Kombat Annihilation and now this one. So that's some sort of record there. But it's just like the first one, and another correlation is I wouldn't say the first Highlander is great, but it does at least have things that are unique about it, that are very interesting to think about and ponder, like, oh man, this is such a cool idea. Where this one, just as AJ said, it's just like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping some of it sticks, and very little of it sticks. Yeah, and also to further the spaghetti metaphor, that's what this plot feels like. It feels like a bunch of noodles that are going in different directions that don't, I don't know, come together in a way that makes any sense. The editing is terrible. That's my biggest issue, actually. The editing is just awful, like, especially at the beginning. And it's so hard to follow what the plot is. Like, there's like time travel in some of the versions of this movie. There's aliens from the planet Zeist. It's just like, what is happening? Like,
I know.
This is not
80s acid trip, man.
Yeah, but it's like, just make your own movie if you want to have this alien time traveling movie. That make it a different movie. It doesn't have to be a Highlander. Like,
even some of the shots, like, more than editing, like framing. I don't know. They're fighting on top of the hood of a car or something, and like all you can see is their feet instead of them punching each other.
Yeah, like what's that choice? Like, who shoots that and is like, this is good on the big screen? Watching people's feet close up. I don't know. It's just bad. It's a bad movie. Sean Connery, yes, he's a little glimmer of, something positive here and there, and he does have a kind of tongue-in-cheek atmosphere to this film. He adds a tongue-in-cheek atmosphere to this film whenever he's on screen. Like, and Noah's right. It feels like he's in a different movie. Like, all of his kind of shenanigans getting over to where McLeod is so much more fun to watch than anything McLeod is doing, which verges on creepy to nonsensical. Yeah, bad movie. I'm going to stick with my 2. I was almost kind of tempted there as we were talking it through to up it, but I think I feel solid with 2 on this one.
Yeah.
All right.
And last is David, with
Also known as you.
also known as me, which is the only person left.
Yeah.
3. So we're all in the same boat here. You guys remember? You guys remember the Ron Burgundy sequel plan that they talked about, where they're
all on a plane?
Yeah, flying, and then they have like ninja stars and everything.
A movie I would kill to see.
Yeah,
I would love to see.
Well, it's just like the convolutedness, and the production company was like, absolutely not. That is too stupid.
It would work with Ron Burgundy.
No, it would. They would find a way to make it work. But it just like the production company saw the success of the other ones and all these famous actors, and they're like, nah, we can't do it. But this movie, they read the script and they're like, oh, aliens, planet Zeist, we're going to tie that into Highlander. That's pretty bold.
Well, I'm sure this is what happened in the meeting room, was like, hey, Blade Runner? Like, that's kind of what we're going for.
But with Sean Connery.
What if you like looked back at all the sequels to movies that came out just entirely awful and got greenlit, like all the way back, you follow the money trail and it makes its way back to Tommy Wiseau?
Oh my god, that's where all his money is coming from.
He just
that is
secretly
how he did
funds
that.
all these projects.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's at the end of some weird conspiracy theory.
Wait, did he fund the Mummy sequels?
I think he might have funded Tomb of the Dragon.
I think
Emperor.
that's
that kind of had
possible. I
his
think he
footprint on
did.
it. Wait, what? David?
Mummies, emperors, dragons.
Oh yeah,
Jet
that was
Li.
the movie you gave a 7 out of 10
I
to. Mummy, the
did.
Tomb of the
It's a
Dragon
good
Emperor.
movie.
Good memories. Yetis, football, all the good stuff.
Didn't get dragons, but we got yetis.
Yep.
That movie is definitely better than this one.
I'll agree. Finally, I will agree with you on that.
Yep.
Okay. You can
I'll
take
take that
that
to
one
the bank,
W.
yep.
I also agree.
Woo!
All right. Were you done with your review?
Yeah,
Anything else?
that's it. It's
All
a
right.
bad movie.
Sticking with the 3 there. Okay, AJ, you want to crunch those numbers for us?
Yeah, all right, so we got a group average of 2.7 for Highlander 2, The Quickening, or whatever the other subtitle is.
Renegade?
Yes,
Yeah, Renegade Cut or something.
Yeah.
So 2.7 puts it
That's
pretty
at least
close
above
to-
one movie.
Yeah, you're right. It's above Neverending Story 2, the second chapter, at a 1.5. And our lost episode, Wild Wild West, had a 2.8, so that beat it out. Maximum Overdrive at 3.1, and Queen of the Damned at 3.3. And hey, Mute 3.5. Wow.
This is so. Is this
Second to
seriously
lowest.
second to last?
Second to
Yes.
last.
I agree. I agree with that.
I agree with
actually.
it too.
I think
And-
that
that's
said,
where it
I would
should
watch
be.
this 10 times before watching Neverending Story.
Me too.
2.
I don't know.
I would-
I don't know. This one kind of challenges it, but I also don't
challenges
remember
it.
AJ, you just haven't watched
Story
Neverending
2.
Story 2 in a while. You need to go back.
Here's an interesting thing about the way I rate movies. It's like the top 3 points and the top and the bottom 3 points are like exponentials. You know, it's an 8 is, you know, just the same amount better than a 7 that a 6 is to a 7. But then once you go to a 9, it's like a factor more than a point.
Right.
And then the
I get
next
that.
one after
I get
that,
what
a
you
10, is an even larger
Yeah.
So 2.
factor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
so
the same
The
for
distance
negative.
between 8 and 9 is grander for you than
Yes.
the distance between a 7 and an 8.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the same goes for 1 to 2 and 2 to
Gotcha.
3.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I actually agree with you. Much more.
So, from this
Yeah, go ahead.
same beheading series of Noah's, we have Mortal Kombat Annihilation at a 3.6.
No, you got a lot of winners.
I'm doing great,
Yeah,
guys.
man.
I'm doing great.
It's been
I'm
fun,
okay
though.
with it, though.
It's been fun. It has been a fun conversation. All right, moving on to critics. Rotten Tomatoes. This movie has a 0%.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
That is unheard of.
How many reviews
Hey, that
does
means
it have?
Master of Disguise
20 or 30.
got
Oh my
twice as many.
Gosh.
Master of Disguise had a 1%,
Uh-huh.
I think.
Yep.
Wow.
We'll take that.
So audience score, little better, 22% for the audience. On Metacritic, the movie has a 31, which is actually better than I was expecting, and a 3.9 from audiences on Metacritic. And on IMDb, this sounds better, but it is very hard to get this low on IMDb. So that's some sort of accomplishment for Highlander 2, and it has a 4.1 on IMDb. I rarely see movies in the 4s on IMDb. So, box office. Y'all ready for it? Mm-hmm. This movie was budgeted at $34 million. It released wide on November 1st in 1991. It opened at number 3 on the box office with $5 million. And also playing at the time was The People Under the Stairs, Curly Sue, Billy Bathgate, and House Party 2. A lot of movies that don't exist. What is Billy Bathgate? Like, when I read that, I was
I don't
like,
know, but I'd probably watch it over this.
Well, I'm going to see what Billy Bathgate got on Rotten Tomatoes.
okay.
Good. It's a good query.
I think it's a Disney movie, but I'm just like, who came up with this?
Bathgate.
Apparently, Billy Bathgate got a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Better
This guy's
than
got
Highlander
a,
2.
Wait, what
this
is
guy's
it
got a
about?
great track record.
Other than Billy Bathgate.
In 1935, Bronx teenager Billy Behan attracts the attention of powerful mobster Dutch Schultz and quickly becomes a part of his organization, growing close to Dutch associate Bo Weinberg, which is Bruce Willis apparently. Knowing his yet undiscovered blah, 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 who cares?
All right, awesome. Billy Bathgate for you there, guys. Rent
Go
it.
check it out.
Yep.
Yeah, I said movie budgeted at $34 million. What do y'all think worldwide, guys? Let's start with Irina.
You said 20...
$34 million budget.
34 million.
1991.
Wow, it's a big budget for anyone.
I have a good guess.
I'm going to go with... I'm just going to say 10.
10 million.
Yeah.
Noah?
I'm gonna go with the same as my review score. 3 million.
3 million? Dang, really low. David?
I'm just going to go ahead and say name alone got it back to where it started. So I'm going to say 34.
Okay. AJ?
Gosh, I don't know, 12.
AJ, you were the closest. The movie made 16 million. Foreign box office is not reported on this one. I'm sure it might have a little bit more than what I'm indicating.
Yeah.
This was domestic, but everything that I saw worldwide was 16 million. The other two have foreign box office reports. But yeah, not a success, especially off of a $34 million budget. So the first movie cost 19 million. And 34 million is very much a mid-budget, so this movie should look better than it does at that budget level and in 1991. Like, that's an inflated budget of up to maybe 60 million today's dollars. To give you an idea, today, a movie that's $60 million, that's like a John Wick 3 or the new Mortal Kombat, which I think was like 70 million.
It's your average Lionsgate movie.
Which one?
Your average Lionsgate movie.
Yes. And yeah, this just... God, money was not on... A lot of people paying for the catering on this one, I would imagine. And I think Christopher Lambert was a bigger name at this time, so maybe he had some more sway at the time with, But then again, he hadn't even started Mortal Kombat yet. I don't know what happened with this. I'm just saying, I think the budget was mismanaged or mishandled here. Franchise talk. This movie, for one, spawned the Renegade cut, which I think kind of had a few more fans, and that came out post-release of the Quickening version. Also, what I think juiced this franchise is... And here's something interesting about Highlander. You take any one of these single movies, and none of them are successful based off theatrical alone. The thing with the first one is it had kind of a John Wick effect where so many people bought the DVD and it just became this, or not the DVD, but the VHS, and it played really well in home media and just gathered this cult following. I would say it's actually weirdly like the original John Wick.
Please don't ever compare those two movies again.
In terms of success and how they became successful and iconic. And the second one, I don't think it earned the franchise any points, but... Between this one and the third one, the TV show launched, which the TV show was weirdly very successful. It has 6 seasons. I didn't watch any of it, but I did read a little bit about it. It stars, or it doesn't star, it features the cousin of Connor McLeod, who is also an immortal, and it's kind of following his journey. And apparently the first 2 seasons are a bit slow, but it really hits its stride in season 3 and on, and then has a disappointing 6th season, which happens after the third movie. But I think people were really feeling Highlander and that TV show, and for whatever reason, that was okay, the IP is still strong. Let's go for number 3.
I don't know what that show's about, but I'm just imagining these characters that are like alien immortals in a Smallville type TV show.
Oh gosh.
I don't think it's like that. I think it's kind of like the first movie, but just stretched, and they add a whole bunch more immortal characters to the mix, and just all sorts of side plots, and they're all revolving around this I think his name's Adrian Smith, the actor who plays him. It's Adrian something, but yeah, Duncan McLeod. All right, with that said, that is the end of this episode. Next week, we are talking about, and this is funny, this next movie has 2 different titles as well, Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, or Highlander, and let me pull the title up just to make sure I have it right, because this is a confusing franchise. So it's either Highlander 3, which it is, by the way, if you've seen it, not a sequel, not a third movie in a franchise. It is also the other title, and this is the title that it adopted later on, which is more appropriate, is Highlander: The Final Dimension. So that's what we're covering next week. Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, a.k.a. Highlander: The Final Dimension.
Fine.
All right. Goodbye, you guys. We'll see y'all then.
Bye.
Cool.
Okay, now let me just see if I can get this straight. You come from another planet, and you're mortal there, but you're immortal here until you kill all the guys from there who have come here. And then you're mortal here. Unless you go back there, or some more guys from there come here, in which case become immortal here again.